Smith to throw, has a clean pocket, throws it, it's caught by DK Metcalf on the run at midfield, showing the speed to the 30, striding to the 10, and he's gone! 73 yards, leaving Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker in his dust, and Seattle takes a 6-3 lead. Arms outstretched, gets the shotgun snap, a pitch to Pollard over the right side. Pollard cuts back on the 5, Pollard to the goal line, and in for the touchdown! Tony Pollard from 6 yards out puts 6 on the board for the Cowboys, down 2 with 3:41 to play in the third. Geno Smith, play action fake, backpedals, throws, and he lobs it to the back of the end zone where DK Metcalf runs alone. He's got his third touchdown catch of the night, and Seattle leads 34-27 early in the fourth. Prescott to throw, sets a little pump fake, throws for the end zone, caught! Jake Ferguson, left side of the end zone with the touchdown and the emphatic spike to celebrate. The Cowboys regaining the lead. 4th and 2, midfield, Seattle down 6. Shotgun snap, Smith under pressure, throws incomplete. It was Micah Parsons bursting into the backfield as Seattle turns it over on downs, and Dallas is going to win it 41-35.
Man, turn this song off. I think I'm 2 days away from getting a Missouri-Texas matchup in the Cotton Bowl. I don't need no Texas propaganda on this show. Good morning, Kansas City. This is the Border Patrol on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Stephen St. John and Nate Bukaty. Marco Marquez one last time. Jake Gutierrez shadowing Marco before he takes over. Retakes over the show on Monday. It's a Football Friday, December 1st. Bye-bye, November. Here's December on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thanks for tuning in with us. Thanks for joining us. Remember, the first hour of the show is streamed live on Twitch and Facebook and X and YouTube on the Sports Radio 810 platform. So if you want to watch us, you can do that. Always appreciate that. Again, reminder, we are not on 38 The Spot. I saw some people like, hey, I'll see you on 38 The Spot tomorrow. I say, hey, no, you won't. You know?
Yeah.
So, but you can watch us on the live stream brought to you our friends at J. Rieger Distillery. So,
check us out.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
And if you're watching on stream right now, you probably see 3 beautiful bottles of Riegers.
That's right. Man, oh man. Hey, thank you. Like, there's... Why am I getting choked up? Stop it. Not time for that. I'm just always overwhelmed on my birthday when how many people, like, text me or post on the Facebook or whatever else that take a minute out of their day to say happy birthday or say something nice. And yesterday was crazy. So if I didn't get back to your message or reply to you on social media, thanks a lot. I think I saw your message, but I saw most of them, but some really cool stuff. But if you wonder, does he even look at this? Does he even see this? I do, and I care very much. And so thank you. That was a great day. Last night we had a big family dinner at M. Chama's Brazilian Grill up in the Northland off 29 and 64th Street. And that was, as soon as I walked in, Marco and Jake were questioning me on the meats that I enjoyed last night. And let me tell you, it was, man. And it was so cool because Jake could get a kick out of this. We made the reservations at 7:30 because just not too far away from M. Chama's is where Richie teaches music at School of Rock, and he had his final lesson at 8, and then was going to get done at 8:30 and get over there like at 8:40, and they shut down at they start serving at 9. So I'm like, just get over there. We'll make you a plate off the buffet, and then we'll tell them to bring you as much meat as possible in 20 minutes or so. And everyone else was there. But then right at 8 o'clock, he walks in. He goes, I can't believe it. This kid never cancels, and my last lesson canceled. And I was like, Grandma canceled that for you so you could be here for my birthday dinner.
Yeah.
That was a sign from up above. I don't know. Either that or the kid just had a cold, the flu or something.
Whatever.
But either way, so Richie got to be there for the majority of the dinner. You'll express it like this, Jake. So Phil St. John puts a lot into this, and he preps. Like he had not eaten all day, and he really. And I told him, I said, "This is going to be, my birthday. I want to see a show.
Yeah,
I want to see you. I want to see you do great things. With the meats that are going to come and
test the
carve
boundaries
out
of
for
your.
you." And I even told my dad, I said, "Watch, because it's going to be something." It never stopped. We were there for an hour and a half, and he never turned the coin over, and he very rarely said no, and he just kept going, even to the point where, like, I can't. This is like I'm watching like a no-hitter. I'm watching Cody Schrader against Arkansas.
You don't want to say anything because you don't want to jinx it.
Oh, my dad kept saying every time the somebody would come with the meat or whatever, and Phil would say, "Yes, please," and my dad would go, "Damn, Phil." And so here's the part you guys like, Marco and Jake. So I guess my dad wanders off, and I don't know. Every week he knows people, so he's off talking to the owner Sam, and they're talking about something, and then I hear my dad telling stories. He's bouncing around. He comes back, and so then about 5 or 10 minutes later, we have a main waiter, right, and the waiter comes over, and someone is getting ready to go in. They have here comes the steak with provolone, and Phil goes, "Yep," raises his hand, "I want some," and the waiter kind of stops and he goes, "Sir, we need you to come to the back. The manager would like to speak with you because you've reached your limit, and we're going to have to work something out." And Phil kind of looked up with real big eyes, and everyone, and then all of a sudden, then the waiter just busts out laughing, and then Phil looks immediately at my dad. He goes, "I know who told him to say that." And Grandpa goes, "Why are you looking at me?" And we kind of, but my dad went and told the waiter. He goes, "Go jack with him," and told him what to say. So it was hilarious. He goes, "Sir, the manager would like to speak to you in the back. You've exceeded your limit for tonight."
That's fantastic.
That was awesome. We had a lot of fun.
That's fantastic.
And then when we were leaving, my dad was in the bathroom, and I shut the lights on him in the bathroom. So that's what we do to each other. It's a
pranking family.
Right. Well, just, my dad, and then Phil's jacking with Richie. Mm-hmm. Richie's jacking with Phil. My dad's jacking with me. It was overwhelming for almost everyone else at the table. But the girls liked it,
And they were jacking with each other, probably.
No, they were just watching.
Okay.
So they were enamored, Chris was there, my stepson, who's old, he's 31 now. So he was there, and so Selena was sitting by him because she didn't get to see him a lot because he's a manager. He's a trainer at Quick. He trains managers at Quick Trip. He's been there for like a decade, so he's always working. So he can't ever come to any of these because he's just always working, right? So she was sitting next to him, and then Julia was over by Richie, and so the girls are just over the moon whenever all three of their brothers are there, because that doesn't happen that often because everyone's schedule. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? I don't even need presents. I got everybody here, all on the same page at the same table. And I just, I couldn't have been happier. I wish that dinner.
Friends.
That's right.
I got family.
I wish that dinner would have never ended.
So does Phil, apparently.
Yeah, no, it never did for him. And then all of a sudden he comes up and he comes back like in the last 5 minutes with a giant plate of fruit and melon.
That's a good way to wash down all that steak.
Right. And then after that, a mango raspberry cheesecake, I guess.
Okay.
use to wash everything down. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what, if you're in the Northland or if you're anywhere, go to Mchama's and then be sure you have someone to wheel you home because it was phenomenal. And hey, Thursday Night Football was phenomenal last night.
It was.
Now, that was an exciting game, right?
Yeah, it was a good one.
Until you had any hopes that Seattle might be able to pull a game-winning drive out in the last two drives, and they decided not to block anyone, which was,
That was disappointing.
It's always unique on a 4th and 2 when you say, hey, we're not going to block Micah Parsons. How do you think this is going to work out? Like, okay, you know what? Unique strategy. Go for it. Let's see.
See how it works out for him.
Ends up it didn't work out very
well.
But Dallas won.
Well, I think that's a big moment for Dak Prescott and Dallas because now the Seahawks are just 500. They're 6-6, but they were an above 500 team going in. And a lot of the conversation around Dallas this year had been, boy, when they play bad teams, nobody throttles bad teams better than the Cowboys, right? They whoop up on the Giants. They whip up on the 49ers or the Commanders, not the 49ers,
right.
sorry. The Commanders.
Right.
Yeah, let's take it easy. They whip up on bad teams, but they lose when they play at the Eagles, and they lose when they play at the 49ers. How can they play against, above 500 teams, and especially Dak Prescott? How is he going to play in big games like that? And his team was down, in the fourth quarter, and he drove them down the field.
I got to see them do something against the Eagles, though.
Yeah.
Like to your point, these are the teams that the Cowboys have beat this year. The Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Rams, the Giants again, the Panthers, and the Commanders, and then the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's the best team they beat.
That's garbage, right?
Yep.
Teams they've lost to. The Cardinals, which
Not
is
good.
inexplicable. 42-10 to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lost a heartbreaker to the Eagles, where a couple of calls could have gone either way and they could have won the game. Now listen to this stretch they got coming up. If you're a believer in the Cowboys, Stan Weber coming in here, they will either prove they are for real or not over the next 4 weeks. Home against the Eagles, at the Bills, at the Dolphins, home against the Lions, at the Commanders at the end, I don't care. But these next 4 games against 3 teams that will be in the playoffs, and the Bills at least still have a shot to make the playoffs. But, what do you think they go in that 4-game stretch? Home against the Eagles, at the Bills, at the Dolphins, home against the Lions.
Man.
2-2. 2-2.
Yeah. And I actually don't think 2-2 would be bad. I don't know that you should be expected to win at Buffalo or at Miami.
But if they're elite, if they're a Super Bowl contender, then they can make stuff real interesting. Say, for instance, let's say the 49ers beat the Eagles on Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would put the Eagles at 10-2 and Dallas at 9-3. Then you're hosting the Eagles. You could be tied.
Yeah, they go like 3-1 over this stretch.
But they got to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, they got them at home.
They got to beat the Eagles.
Got them in Dallas.
2 tough road games at Buffalo and at the Dolphins. I think they'll beat the Lions, but no, it wouldn't be shocking if the Lions beat them. The Lions are good.
Right.
A little unpredictable. But, Dak Prescott's been terrific. Absolutely.
He was very good last night.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I'll be very interested to hear if Stan believes in Dallas, because usually Stan's pretty skeptical of the whole thing, he loves Dallas, he loves the Cowboys, but he's pretty skeptical.
But I still think it's even if I won't speak for Stan, but get back to me after the Eagles game. Like this stretch right here. Like that Seahawks game is great, but if they go, if they lose at home to the Eagles and then lose at Buffalo, then it's like, well, so what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it was
sure.
okay. Then now you beat a 500 team and then you lose to everyone else. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I think it was a good step in the right direction for Dallas last night to win that game.
Yeah. With this stretch coming up, you better win that game.
Come from behind in the fourth quarter. Prescott threw for 299, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I think the no picks thing is big for him. Big for everybody. It's an obvious statement.
No, it's just for him, really.
Just-
for the other quarterbacks, it doesn't matter.
He does
much.
seem, I don't know how many picks he's got this year, but I feel like he's just sometimes taking some chances he doesn't needed to this year.
Can I change the
Only
subject
6 picks. He's
and
only
ask
got
you
6
something before Stan gets here? Because this is going to be a topic for Stan, too, because I want to pick his brain about this.
Okay.
But I want to shine the spotlight on you.
picks. Yes, sir. All right.
By the way, I'm so distracted by what Marco and Jake are doing because I've tried to include them in the conversation a couple times, and they both keep looking. They're either looking at TikTok videos or they're like cats looking at balls of yarn up on this screen. And so I don't know if something's wrong with the show.
I'm learning
or if
so
they're
much
just
right
so
now.
distracted by something they're looking, and because I always worry okay, we off the air because Marco won't tell me if something's going wrong sometimes. And I'll be talking for 10 minutes and say, just keep going. Stream's down and we're off the air. Just keep talking. So I don't. And they're looking up like they're watching the Zapruder film over and over again. Like, what the hell are you looking at? It's like you don't see this. And they're both like this the whole time, I don't know. What's going on?
Jake's teaching him some new age medicine, probably.
Jake's
hailed-
Jake's teaching Marco something on his last day. Hey, thanks for helping out the last year and a half. Appreciate it. Hey, Marco, this will really help you do the show over the next 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh no, it doesn't have anything to do with the show. He's teaching him something about new
Okay.
age medicine or whatever.
No,
Whatever.
it's all.
It does have everything to do with the show.
Right. This would really help you do the show. Not that I could have told you this at any point in the last 18 months. but-
I'm teaching about all these different transitions you can do on TV.
yeah. Oh, you
Well,
just in time. Hey, thanks. Appreciate
Maybe we
you.
would have stayed on television if he'd been doing those.
Great. Yeah. But we can do that on the stream? We have control with that? Oh, that's good. That's good to know. All right. So, and trust me, I'm not doing this to jack with you at all because right now I'm trying to prepare myself for Missouri at some point losing one or both of their coordinators.
Right.
Because both of their coordinators, I think, are excellent. And at some point, and I don't know if it's going to happen this offseason or next offseason, but I think that at some point, one or both of them are going to attract some attention from outside the program.
Mm-hmm.
And so but that's guess what? That's what happens when you have a successful program. That's coaches want that. You want to be able to have a program that generates attractive coaching candidates other places. You know why? That means you're winning.
Yeah.
That means you're successful, and that means other teams want to emulate what you do. You don't want a stagnant program where people look at your staff like, all right then, great. Keep it up. And so reports out there that Kansas losing their offensive coordinator to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, how many times have you heard this season? Boy, Penn State's defense is great. Boy, Penn State's offense sucks. If they could get an offense, they might be dangerous. And so I would like to get your reaction to that, please.
Well, he is a terrific coach. I mean,
'Cause I know you've raved about him.
yeah. I mean, the KU offense has been really good the last couple of years, and I think that one of the biggest testaments to how good of a coach he is all the issues they've had at quarterback.
Marco wants you to say his name.
Andy Kotelnicki.
Say it again.
Andy Kotelnicki.
Kotelnicki, see? Told
And
you.
Oh, he's so fine. He's so fine.
Kotelnicki. Kotelnicki. Is that James Franklin saying right now?
Oh, he's a great coach. The only person I've seen report it is Bruce Feldman, right? Has anybody come out? Don't usually other reporters come out and
But you don't believe Bruce Feldman.
no,
I like
I mean
this.
I
No,
do.
no, I like it. Say it.
I do. I just
Push
think
back.
it's kind of weird.
Do you think he's not leaving?
No, I would assume. I haven't seen anybody deny it, so maybe it's just not finalized. Because I think the report was that they're expected to hire Kotelnicki, and on their end, Kansas put out a statement saying that they're promoting 2 assistant coaches, 1 to co-offensive coordinator. They didn't say anything about Kotelnicki
Well, then that would
in the comment,
Be
right?
indication, wouldn't it?
You would think so, yeah. So, I mean, I'm assuming that it's just a situation where They haven't figured out they haven't done the details on the contract yet. They're not ready to make an announcement. And if they make an announcement, then I would assume you'll see a statement from Lance Leipold about what Kotelnicki's meant to the program and all that. With all the different changes.
Here you go. Adam Rittenberg from ESPN.
Okay.
Source confirms Penn State is hiring
Okay.
Kansas OC Andrew Kotelnicki as offensive coordinator. Bruce Feldman first reported.
Yeah.
And then Dan Orlovsky, who some people like as an NFL analyst, and we found out a couple years ago that Danny Klingscale absolutely despises Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky said, "This is a fantastic hire for Penn State at OC. Super creative and open box mindset play designer and play caller. Applause." So,
yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it's the type of thing that it's good news because it means that you've got good coaches that are in demand. But obviously, that's going to be one of the challenges of keeping it going at Kansas is holding on to people. and I don't think you want to hold people back. You know, Andy Reid is. We always talk about how Andy Reid is great at coaching coaches. He develops coaches, and he wants them to go on to become head coaches and be successful.
Doesn't that make it easier to hire the next guy or
yeah.
to be able to attract coaching talent
Yeah.
to come and work for you?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern obviously is they got to keep Lance Leipold because he's the architect of all of it. But I don't underscore or undersell at all how important Andy Kotelnicki's been because, again, we talk about the quarterback situation there. You know, he had to go with 3 different quarterbacks this year, at times with a freshman, previous walk-on quarterback. And he's very creative. I think some of the offenses that you see in the Big Ten, I mean, people look at it and just go, God, it's so boring. And no wonder they don't score any points. I think that he's a great coach for modern football. There's motion all over the place. It's a complicated offense. One of the things that impresses me is how many different formations and packages they have, and yet the players execute it. At the college level, I think that's got to be good coaching. You know, if you can install that many things and actually get the college kids to all execute it, you're a really good coach. And so I'm very sad to see him go, but I'll have faith that Lance Leipold, has other. I mean, I feel like that whole coaching staff is really good, and as long as he's at Kansas, he's probably going to have to keep doing this every once in a while, developing young coaches, giving them opportunities. But holding on to coaches, holding on to players, I think is going to be a challenge.
We'll take a break. Back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back to the show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of ground to cover with Stan Weber. Good morning, Stan. How are you?
I'm doing great, Stephen. How are you?
Doing very well. We're going to start off, though. I want to get things started off the right foot and set the tone, the mood here for the next hour and a half. This and this has nothing to do with football, but I think we'll all of us, all five of us, will thoroughly enjoy this clip that I'm going to have Marco play. I just sent you the DM, Marco. So this is about a 2-minute clip or so from an upcoming documentary that I cannot wait to see on MLB Network coming up next Thursday, December 7th, is going to be an MLB Network documentary called Brett. And I've seen some of the footage.
That means George Brett.
Oh, yeah.
All-time Kansas City Royal.
I can't wait.
Did he ever
for
wear a
this.
uniform of another major league team?
Hell no. I can't wait to see this. And
How
so
rare is that?
They've
right
been tweeting out like different clips and everything else, and obviously they sit down with teammates, people played against them. They do a lot of interviews with George, and so here is a 2-minute clip of George talking about the '85 World Series and the Don Dinkinger call and just everything else. And you'll hear Whitey Herzog complaining about the call. You hear some highlights, and you hear George describing what happened. And if you're a Royals fan, if this doesn't get you all fired up to watch this, you should want to watch this anyway. What I'm and Nate, I would assume you're going to do this too. I can't wait. All my kids are going to watch this, and they're going to say, "Here's the deal. You hear me talk with such reverence about George Brett." And through the ALS Association and all this work with ALS and the golf tournament and my work with ALS, they've had a chance to meet him several times. And then I try to explain to him, now listen, this is why I loved him so much. The way everyone feels about Patrick Mahomes right now, that's the way I felt like about George Brett my entire childhood. This is who your grandmother, who's no longer with us, we would go places and wait in line for 2 or 3 hours at car dealerships, at Kmart, whatever, to meet him or get an autograph, to the point where George would recognize my mom and me. Like, we stood in line at Kmart for 3 hours when George was selling some men's vitamins, like he was promoting, right? And and my mom had gone to the bathroom, and I was standing in line. I was like 9 or 10 years old, and we get up there, and she was making her way back, and he looks and he goes, "Where's your mom at?" He had seen us at so many autograph signings. And so listen to this 2-minute clip. I didn't know what to expect. Have you heard this yet?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. Stan, this is great. So this is just a small snippet of the upcoming documentary, Brett, that will premiere next Thursday. And then we can talk about it next Friday when you're in. Stan, play this, Marco.
Little swimmer to the right side.
We're sitting in the first base dugout, so we had a pretty good view of what was going on.
Worrell races over to cover. The throw doesn't get him. Worrell got to the bag in an argument here, and here comes Herzog.
The play just wasn't smooth. And I could have swore sitting in the first base dugout that he was safe.
Looks like he's out. Well, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Guess what? He was out. Fortunately for us, he called it safe.
First base umpire is Dinkinger, American League.
The people in St. Louis to this day still think it was Game 7 because they think they lost the World Series on that call.
They still dropped a pop-up that inning.
And Clark doesn't know where he is.
They still had a pass ball.
That gets away from Porter, and the runners move up.
And they still blame that on Dankin.
And it's a looper hitting the right field for a base hit. Here comes Sunburn. Here's the throw. He scores. We go to a 7.
I think we played 174 ball games this year. That's the first time we gotten beat in the 9th inning. I thought the guy was out at first base. Well, I'm pretty perturbed about that call.
And that's Whitey Herzog.
For crying out loud, St. Louis, and I have friends that live in St. Louis, Don Dankinger, he made a bad call. Made a bad call. If they call him out, we still might have won the game. You don't know. That was Game 6.
Not dead yet! One more time, baby, one more time.
Come out and play Game 7. That's all you had to do was play Game 7.
And the pitch is again drilled to left field, hooking
You didn't show up for Game 7. You lost 11-0. Suck on it.
He ends it with "suck on it." Let me tell you, I get choked up even say because I was so lucky. I was with my mom in the upper level, behind home plate, way up in the upper level of then Royal Stadium, and we had taken the bus to the game, and so then we take the bus and then took the bus back downtown where my dad picked us up, and I'll never forget what that bus ride was like. People were crying, people were shaking, jumping up and down, and we get there, my dad picked us up and just drove around downtown honking horns and going crazy. And all these years later, I still get fired up by the simple words from George Brett. Suck on it. So that's all. I thought everyone would enjoy hearing that. George Brett.
That's awesome. There's so many layers of this. I just think about Marco. Does he know, who Deckinger is?
He learns.
Whitey Herzog, But I'll tell you this, on another subject, but on that audio, you mentioned George Brett, and you compared it to your children's love and knowledge of and the world knows Patrick Mahomes. From an announcer's nerd, how about Al Michaels was the guy there and is still calling Patrick Mahomes games today?
The best.
The best.
The best.
But people may not know that that's a young Al Michaels. You may know, the Olympics in New York, the greatest game on ice. When you beat the Russians, everyone knows that's Al Michaels. But you realize in that World Series call, that was Al Michaels, and he's still killing it right now, last night, on television.
And like for me,
in the
like
NFL.
A boxing nerd, arguably one of the greatest fights ever, Hagler-Hearns, Al Michaels. And people have asked me, like, do you ever get nervous still when you interview anyone? I can give you a perfect example of one of them. A couple of years ago at the 101 Awards, he was being honored. And so when I was there in the interview room, and they were giving everyone 4 or 5 minutes, and I think Chad was there, and somebody said, who's your top, of all the people in here, players? I said, if I get 5 minutes with Al Michaels. And here comes Al Michaels over to me, and I'm like, And so I go, I know you get asked about, I go, what was it like to be ringside for Hagler-Hearns? And his eyes lit up, because he gets asked a lot about, do you believe in miracles and everything else? And he told me some great stuff, and it was awesome, because I'm with you. I think he is the best of all time. Like, for me, he's the greatest. He's the GOAT when it comes to play-by-play. And when I hear his voice, then I know, like, I'm locked in. Let's go. So I love him. I'm glad you brought that up.
When his voice is on, it sounds like it's a big game.
And on top of that, he'll talk a little gambling at the end of the game. So that's what
before everybody did.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 15 years ago.
This kick might have a little more importance to some people than others.
But back to the subject, George Brett, incredible. The history you talk about is a big deal. And when I made my permanent move, not just visiting to friends, that type of thing, to Kansas City, it was just months before that St. Louis World Series in 1985. And I was here in Kansas City and just getting introduced to all the things. And tons of my friends, obviously, were in town. And because I redshirted at K-State, I actually went a 5th year and got my master's degree. People didn't do that back then very often. So I rolled in a year later than all my peers who were my age, who I went to class with and hung out with the tightest. They were all here. And so, boy, did I have the red carpet treatment, because I didn't have to guess, like, where do you need to go to eat barbecue, or what do you need to do to see this? I went to so many Royals games down the stretch, Stephen, because I was a kid in Wichita who thought it was so cool, and my parents trusted so much. Think about this, like a 10-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid, they dropped us off as a radio station, kind of like we came into 810 in Wichita, and you got on a bus and you drove to a Sunday Royals game and drove back. And they gave you all the beer or pop, our age pop, that you wanted on the trip, and you bought hot dogs or whatever at the game, but you got to watch the Royals one time on Sunday. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. Anytime you saw them on TV, they introduced Monday Night Baseball. We thought that was the biggest thing ever, because the Royals were hardly ever on. It wasn't like now where Ryan Lefevre's on every night. So just to see them ever was a big deal. And now I lived in Kansas City, and like 2 out of every 3 nights, my buddies would go, "Hey, would you like to go to a Royals game after work?" I was like, "Let's go!" So they were behind the California Angels late in the year into maybe September, and they swept them in a series, I think a 4-game series. I must have gone to 3 or 4 of those games. And so, yeah, it was a time in my life where I was just getting introduced to Kansas City and being a good luck charm, maybe, bang, world champions.
You know what my first reaction was?
By
when
the
I
way,
heard that
Marco,
clip?
real quick, your last act on the producer text chain.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and text out there that I'm going to be reaching out to George Brett later on to book him for next week to talk about this. So get on there
I'll do it.
right now.
You telling Marco or are you
Yeah, I'm
telling Jake
Marco.
to do this?
No, this is Marco's last, because we have to
His
text
final- that's a
out
good final
and claim-
act.
Well, yeah, that's right.
My last act was to call George Brett for the
Yeah,
show.
I'll text you. Well,
I just mean
Right.
to call dibs on George
Right.
Brett.
That's right.
As soon as I heard the last sentence of that clip, the first thing I thought of was
Your dad.
That's why my dad loved George Brett so much.
That's what your dad would say.
Oh, God, that's why my dad loved
Hey,
George Brett so much.
Suck on it, St.
Yeah,
Louis.
And
like your
punch
dad- if
Craig
you-
Nettles.
Yeah.
Right. If your dad
At
hears
third
that, that's
base.
right. That's,
yeah, 100%. How did Eric Bieniemy describe Patrick Mahomes?
Competitive prick.
Was there ever more of a competitive prick than George Brett? I mean,
no.
like Craig Nettles. He didn't like the way the guy tagged him, and he just started throwing haymakers. I knew it was a
Slide
diff-
into third base, pop up, and start fighting.
Yeah, they
right.
both could
And
stay
no
in the
one's
game.
thrown out of the game.
Yeah, it was a different era and all that, but that's one thing, because there's a lot of differences between Mahomes and Brett, but one thing that is very similar is those guys both. You can hear in George Brett's voice, he's still fired up
Yeah.
about it. Suck on it. We
Yeah.
won that.
Yeah. Show up for Game 7. Like he wasn't smiling.
No,
he was like,
he's like there's a
He's
like a look of
had it.
intensity.
He doesn't
in
want
his
to hear
eyes.
that anymore.
Yeah,
All right,
love
so
it.
watch that, Brett, next Thursday on MLB Network. We'll get George on next week to talk about that. If Marco sends out the text, I don't know if Marco does it anymore. So Marco says yes, he will. Okay, so now next topic for debate, and you probably heard us talking about this on your way in. KU, by several reports now, losing their offensive coordinator to Penn State. And so I asked Nate about this. And Stan, you have, from time to time, whenever you talk, you've raved about their offense, right? And how you admired what they've done offensively at Kansas. And so to lose their offensive coordinator, I'm just curious, what was your reaction to this?
It makes everybody else that's competing against Kansas in the Big 12 happy. Now, how much of a difference will it make? It depends on how much of what he believes he taught to the rest of the staff. He has been around Lance Leipold forever. It's been 15 years or so that they've been together. So it's not like a new fancy pants coordinator came in. If you think about Moore coming into Mizzou, how good a job did he do this year? But if he left immediately, you wouldn't have any effect. No one else would say, we can take over where he left off and keep it going, because he just came in and did his thing. Everybody knows why he reacted to every formation. Like, hey, would they ever give you this formation? If they give you Eagle Week, run option week. I mean, they know the theorems that he's talked about. So there's a chance that they can continue to play it out. And obviously, Lance Leipold is still in charge. So that's the big deal for Kansas. There's no way you talk about disaster, but Andy Kotelnicki has been unbelievable. All you've seen is Kansas' 2 best offense in the history of Jayhawk football the last 2 years. Last year they averaged 7 yards per play, the best ever, and this year they're coming in at just under 7 yards per play, second best in KU history. They're scoring. If he does go to Penn State, it's an unusual thing. Big Ten football is different than other styles of football around the country. I think his offense will work perfectly. Not that it wouldn't work everywhere, but it'll work perfectly in the Big Ten because he doesn't exclude tight ends. This isn't about Mike Leach saying, watch this, we're going to spread everybody out and have 4 and 5 receivers and line splits that you've never seen before. No, what's great about Andy Kotelnicki's offense is it looks similar to everybody else's. In fact, sometimes it looks simple, like there's a lot of guys packed in tight to where the center is. But the intricacies with the little movements, the shifts, and the execution that they play with is off the charts. How does he find wide open tight ends in the flat 5 yards down the field? And then, against K-State, first play of the third quarter, a 59-yard reception where the tight end caught the ball at the line of scrimmage. Like, what is he doing over there by himself? And, by the way, there was a blocker alone 10 yards ahead of him to escort him down the field, not for a touchdown, but a giant play to start the third quarter. That's the kind of thing he's doing all the time. You can actually do that with Big Ten players. Does that make sense? He doesn't need a different style of player. He can go out and get it done. So, yeah, he's an amazing coach, and it definitely brings questions, if you're a KU fan, to do we take a slight step backward in this area? And it's obviously a question. And then you start asking, a guy like Jalen Daniels, how much is he tied into the coordinator or anybody on the offense? Is there anybody that's going, well, I want to play for him, not KU? And you think, well, how could that ever happen? Well, just follow basketball recruiting. Does this make sense? Most basketball players don't go to a school because they love that university or some academic program. It's the coach. So if the coach isn't there, they can say, I love this university, but I really want to play for that coach. So that'll be the next step, because I know Nate's talked about this, and it's important right now, a big subject, keeping your players. So does this have any effect on the players as the second stage of this whole thing? Would Jalen Daniels say, hey, next Monday, maybe I do go to the transfer portal? Just because he put out that video the other day didn't mean he signed a 10-year contract.
Right.
So you see what I'm saying? You just don't know what the other ramifications are. The guy's elite, though. So a big catch for James Franklin, a guy I know well. Coach Franklin was K-State offensive coordinator for a time, and I followed him and talked to him and interviewed him on College Game Day. I do with Danny Klingscale on Saturday mornings at 9 during football season, and he's come on as a guest, both when he was killing it at Vanderbilt. Think about how good a coach he is. Vanderbilt was good when James Franklin was there.
Mm-hmm.
Has Vanderbilt been good since?
No.
So, what the bad thing about being a coach at Penn State is you're in the same division as Ohio State and Michigan. So you might be the third best team in the country, and no one knows it because everyone says and quotes, what's James Franklin's record against those two teams? 0 and however many times he's played them. And he's been there a while, right?
Yeah.
9 or 10 years.
Well, one thing I would say, KU talked about how they announced the promotion of one of their assistant coaches, the quarterbacks coach, Jim Zabrowski.
Probably Zabrowski.
Yeah, if you're probably going by the American pronunciation of it.
Well, you're a soccer guy. I'm not which one. You may go with another one.
I'm
go
thinking
ahead.
more as I'm wearing my Grand Marshal of the Polsky Day Parade from 2015.
He's getting into his
right
neutrals and so where he's not going to say anything bad about St. Louis. He's going to say, Whitey Herzog has a good point.
So I do hope the continuity of keeping the quarterbacks coach, promoting him to co-offensive coordinator, keeps things going. But I think one of the questions that you have too in that regard, though, is just because even if he knows all the same principles and ideas that Andy Kotelnicki had, every coach we see it with the Chiefs right now, like they keep things, like when Eric Bieniemy left, but it doesn't mean everything's exactly the same, right? Like things will change. The way that he goes about it, the way he coaches his players. One of the things I really admired about Kotelnicki was he seemed to really have a knack for how to maximize the strengths on the offense. We got two great running backs. You saw him run a lot of Wildcat this year, and it worked, right? It seemed like every time they ran the Wildcat, it worked, and they did it in a lot of different creative ways where you weren't quite sure.
Different guys catching the snap, too.
Yeah, and the quarterback's still on the field, and maybe he'll end up with the ball in his hands throwing it, keeping guys honest, and all that stuff. So does the next guy have the same knack for, hey, these are our best players, and this is how to get them the ball in ways that make them dangerous? Those are all things we'd have to find out.
Because you got to call the exact play at the right time. I mean, I can draw things up all day long and teach philosophies, and you could learn the philosophies, but do they click in your head at the right time? And do you know how to call a play here early in the third quarter that sets up the key mid-fourth quarter play that you want that linebacker to see that look? So you'll bait him into what he's already seen to take advantage of him. So it has to be a big question mark, not a step forward in any way for KU football, because this guy's elite.
But I am optimistic that they have a good program now. And, that's what good programs need to do sometimes. You're going to have to...
Football's not one guy.
Yeah.
That's what makes football great.
Yeah. And if they've got it going in the right direction, hopefully the next guy already knows how things work and they keep going. All
right. Another topic I wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting, and something tells me Jake will have an opinion on this. If you saw yesterday on social media, J.J. Watt broke some news and said that Zach Ertz asked for his release from the Cardinals and was granted that because he wants to have a chance to sign with a Super Bowl contender. But after the trade deadline, all players who are released must pass through waivers. And so every team will have the ability to make a claim for the balance of Zach Ertz's contract. Anyone who claims Ertz, and this is according to Pro Football Talk, would assume the balance of his $8.755 million contract. And so with the Cardinals on the hook for Week 13, a new team would owe Ertz $2.43 million for the remainder of the season. According to overthecap.com, the Chiefs have just over $2.6 million in cap space because the waiver order goes according to what the standings are right now. The two teams that are most linked to him are the Ravens because they lost Mark Andrews and he went on IR, and a reunion with the Eagles. The Chiefs would have a chance to claim him on waivers before the Ravens and before the Eagles if they wanted to do that.
So you're saying it goes the best team gets first look, not the worst team?
Right. Well, the worst team gets the worst record.
So the Chiefs would be last, or
it's for current standings right now because the Eagles have the best record, so they'd have the last pick.
Yeah,
last.
Waivers. So a lot of other teams have to let him go by.
Right.
Yep.
And so, but he's not going to. He said he's not going to sign. He'll retire.
He should retire.
Right. He wants to go to a Super Bowl.
He's trying to tell them don't.
Right, don't claim me.
Don't claim me. Right.
Raiders, don't claim me. Like that.
Right.
And so,
Hunter Renfrow thinks they can still do it. He said they can run the table.
Right. And so, and what they speculate here at Pro Football Talk is if a team he doesn't deem a Super Bowl contender claims him, he'll just retire. But he'd be giving up $2.4 million. Whatever. Who knows? But most people think if he claims waivers, and the two favorites would be the Eagles and the Ravens. If he gets to the Chiefs, would you claim Zach Ertz? And see if he could. I mean, Andy loves using tight ends. He's not what he used to be, but you could afford him. Would you bring him in not only to see if you could add a veteran weapon down the stretch, and also keep him away from the Ravens or the Eagles? Would you be interested, or would you just take a step back and let that one go?
You asking me?
Sure.
Okay. No, I would not take him if I were the Chiefs at all. I don't think you need to worry about keeping him from others. That's a cool strategy. It's legitimate, but not when you're the best. The best teams can stay in their own lane, look forward, and know if they play great, they'll win it all. So you don't worry about who the next competitor is. Oh, Joe Burrow and the Bengals are the most dangerous team to the Chiefs. I would have said that a month ago. Oh, not anymore. So you just keep going and excellent. No, Noah Gray's too good. Noah Gray's too good. Zach Ertz has no place in here, and he stunk for the Cardinals. Now, he could revive himself if he went to a new team. I get that because he has it in him, but he stunk. He dropped balls. He was awful. He may be over the hill. He may be done. So, yeah, the Ravens, they need a tight end bad. I would say if I were the Ravens organization, I would definitely consider it and hope that he popped. Keep him away from the Eagles, who you might play in the Super Bowl, away from the Chiefs, who you might play in the AFC Championship game, but mostly because Andrews was such a key factor. Lamar Jackson targeted Andrews more than any quarterback to receiver in the NFL. That's his guy, and they don't have him right now. But no, I'm not tempted at all. He played awful. He looks like he's over the hill, and Noah Gray's really good.
Nate Bukaty, Jake Gutierrez, Marco, any differing opinions on that with Zach Ertz available on waivers?
Not a single difference of opinion there for me. I'll take Noah Gray over him right now, every day of the week. This would be like bringing in the tight end version of Le'Veon Bell or LaShawn McCoy, a player that used to be really good.
Yeah, but do you think he has the attitude problems those two?
Maybe not that part, but I just mean the production level part.
But Andy does like to use more than two tight ends.
Nate would say yes because he wants to interview his wife,
right.
who's a superstar.
I'm shocked
she's
she's
she's a superstar soccer
and
player.
His wife is
right. She played World
that is
Cup
true, yeah.
or whatever.
U.S. national team hero. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You could ask
because I don't think he'd be replacing Noah Gray. We're talking about replacing Blake Bell.
Yeah.
And insurance if somebody gets hurt. I don't know.
I suppose
No,
if that's all the cap space they have, I would rather them be able to keep that flexibility for something else.
Well, what else are you gonna do?
I don't know, but I just don't see what he adds.
You like the choice? You haven't given your opinion.
I'd consider it. I'd think about it. I trust Andy Reid enough, but I know his love of tight ends, and I mean, another weapon.
It's okay if they bring him in because, like I said, he may play like a player that he used to be because he'll be so excited to be on a winner.
And he played in Doug Peterson's offense, so I think there should be some. I don't know.
Maybe it could be like a Terrell Suggs, who comes in and doesn't do a ton but helps enough.
I'm not big against it. I just don't want to take any snaps away from Noah Gray.
Oh no, I don't. But I'm just.
And is he going to block like Bell?
I don't know.
He wants to catch passes. He don't want to block.
What do you guys say? Anyone feel strongly either way about?
I like it
Zach
in the
Ertz?
sense of you keep him away from going to the Eagles or Ravens. That strategy.
I don't care about him going to the Eagles. The Ravens, like you, as bad. The Ravens need him because Lamar, his security blanket was Mark Andrews, and I think that. Well, I've been pounding this for the past week or so. That is going to hurt them in the long run more than I think most national people are talking about. Losing Mark Andrews, I think, is going to end up being devastating for Baltimore when it gets to the postseason because Lamar has issues in the postseason as it is. Jake, final word.
The question for me is he better than Blake Bell? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you're making your roster better, you're making your team better. I mean, I do not want to stunt the growth of Noah Gray, but if you're making your roster better, you're making your team better with that acquisition and you're stopping the Ravens from getting him, then I would say yes. So that comes down to, does Andy Reid think he's better than Blake Bell? And if that answer is yes, you have the cap room. You bring a veteran guy in the locker room. You bring a guy in that maybe Patrick Mahomes can trust, a guy that can run routes, a veteran. Then, you're making your team better. And at this point in time, if you can make your roster better in Week 13, I don't see why you wouldn't do it.
The caveat is he a better football player for the Chiefs. He knows the offense zero. Blake Bell knows every subtlety. Blake Bell's a veteran. I'm just saying, your definition is okay. I agree with you. But is he really going to be effective down the stretch? Will he learn the offense that fast, be better? It's a great question.
Unbelievable. This guy's back a week. He thinks he knows everything. Back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHP.